that we have limited resources to do what we can with to make the event as green as possible, and perhaps, you can certainly make it green by turning off all the sound systems and so on and so forth, and it cost a lot less, but I don't know if it would be quite as much, it might be as enjoyable, but very, very much different. And just finally, one last thing I'd like to say, on the thing of how to make a festival greener, I do feel that one of the things that needs to be achieved is permanent festival sites. It's much more, it's places where an event stays and can build its own infrastructure. I mean, it's something we are working on for Sunrise, dreamed of for a long time, and are going to make real. And I hear this place is for sale, £2 million. It's a lot to us, but it's not a lot to some people. There's lots of challenges in that, of course. It's not the site has its limitations by the sound of it, but perhaps there is the basis of something permanent here. The Green Gathering has done so well to find this place, and it's blessed. It's a gift to be granted this place. And it's done a lot, actually. It shows the Green Gathering is going the right way because it's been granted a place like this, and it's a beautiful, beautiful ancient site. Incredible. So, well done. And that's about all for me.
And one other thing we desperately need, we rent in or we buy in all this clobber for festivals, and then we've got to store it somewhere. It's expensive, it's a lot of travelling. If anybody's got a shed, a nice big shed in a field within 50 miles of here, get in contact, because that would help us green up the festival hugely. Let's try that. Okay. I think we have a question here, Penny Kemp.
I just wanted to say, it's not actually a question, I just wanted to remind everybody, 8 weeks, 8 short weeks to get this infrastructure sorted out. Normally we have far more time than that to do this. So I think, whatever criticisms there are, and there are bound to be few criticisms going around, I think a brilliant job has been done.
Next question here, Steve Bank again.
On the question of toilets, I'd like to say that at previous festivals I've seen these big tanks which have been called PQ busters. This separates urine from solid material. Now urine is actually a valuable product. People will buy it because it's non-toxic and it can be used as a fertilizer. So whether or not it's been collected previously in these tanks, it is actually something that the Green Gathering could actually sell to farmers as a product. These tanks, the company that deals with it's only just down the road in Lydney. Now the PQ busters that exist are for males, right? There's no reason why PQ busters shouldn't be designed so the females can use them as well, right? This will take an awful lot of pressure off those portaloos if they're only used for solid material and not used for urine. So I think this could be something that the Green Gathering could step forward and look into.
I hope you're all aware, gentlemen, that there are urinals, straw bales behind the portaloos. There is absolutely no need at all to pee in a portaloo when there's straw bales, which the authority have said we could have. They didn't like the idea of compost toilets. And to go back to Steve's earlier question, we were pleasantly surprised by the reaction of the police and the council here compared to Mendip, and I think a lot of the reason for that is that the good work that Croissant Neuf has done at their festival 8 or 9 miles away, because the police and the council now have a good idea of what a green festival is through having been at Croissant Neuf. And to them, we're not a big loud music band 5-hour festival, drink as much as you can and then piss off early and leave a whole load of mess sort of festival. So we've had an entirely different response from the police and the council here. Talk about festival rumours, the price of this place, it was 200 yesterday morning, I heard 2.5 million yesterday afternoon, I heard 7 million in the sauna this afternoon. I don't know if anyone's got any rise on that.
And I heard 9 million.
9 million today, so shake your back.
6 million for the films and 2 million for the house.
Next question, please. John, how are we doing on time? Here we go. Question here. How are we doing on time, John? Let's have the question anyway, just because.
Right, 10 to 7. We've heard a lot about the companies and about all the detail of the business and stuff like that, but as you three are sat up there on the stage and put yourselves forward, from a personal perspective, when things go really bad and you think to yourself, oh my God, I really don't want to do this, what drives you? What is it that's behind you personally to do what you do for us?
Right. Did you all hear the question? It was, yeah. For me, I'm retired now. I'm not responsible for any of this, and I'm having a wonderful time going around and not going around with bent back and bowed shoulders and weighed down by the cares of the world and £750,000 of debt and a radio for each year. But what did keep me going and keep me doing it for so long with the Big Green Gathering was the number of people who would come up to me every year, and there were people every year who came up to me and said, thank you for doing this gathering, it has changed my life. And if we can change people's lives for the better, then there's no more rewarding thing or no more purposeful thing to have in your life than that.
I entirely concur with that. It is the feedback that keeps you going. Some of it. When I was a child, though, I used to spend my time playing computer games, playing civilizations and designing cities and cultures and so on and so forth, and playing God. Running festivals is somewhat like that. You know, it's designing civilizations in a temporary way, in a physical fashion. You know, but it's a real thing as well. You know, in that is what I see festivals as doing. You know, it's the temporary micro communities. You know, that the models have the potential to be models of what a future society can look like. You know, and you know, I am a bit of a revolutionary at heart, and I'm a bit cosmic as well. And you know, I do believe a change is coming, and whatever that change is, whether it's the collapse of the economic system, whether it's, some people believe it's great earth shifts and so on, you know, and you know, whether it's something even greater, and I'm sure it's something that we probably don't even imagine.
Definitely.
But indeed. But you know, I do believe it's coming, and it's coming soon, you know, and that's ultimately what drove me on, you know, that's why I did it. I didn't start festivals to run festivals, I started festivals because it was the way I could see to make a difference in the world and to kind of help with that change and to, you know, perhaps create a parallel infrastructure, you know, that will mean when things do go down, and however they go down, you know, we've already got a culture in place that can pick up the pieces and, you know, and support ourselves and move on. And, you know, it's the Buckminster Fuller thing, you don't ever, you know, change something by fighting it, system by fighting it. You design a new one that makes the old model obsolete. And, you know, that's what we're trying to do here, I think, with festivals, and that's what drives me on, you know, that passion for change and the knowledge, the deep knowing that that change is coming, you know, we're all part of it.
It's a good question, isn't it? It's a good question. It's not to do with lose and tangible things. I guess when I was growing up, I always rather felt that I'd rather missed out on the 60s and the early 70s and those sort of radical, interesting things going on. And so, whilst I missed out on it by a few years, it always seemed like, oh, that's interesting. And there was always this little sort of stick at the back. And in my teens, I went on a lot of the CND demonstrations, but very much just as a person on the coach going up from Glastonbury to wherever it was. And then sort of after school I went abroad for three years and travelled and worked and hitchhiked and got lost and I guess the key thing that told me was that people's default position is good. You know, wherever you are in the world, if you're in a scrape and over 3 years travelling about, you know, you get in a few scrapes, but it taught me that people's default position is good, and that was an incredibly powerful lesson after an English education, you know, that sort of re-education, which I felt took quite a few years, and I sort of fell into the film business after that for some reason, and wanted to make socially important films, and got a job at Ridley Scott's at a good production company, and felt I was learning how to make socially important films through commercials, the sort of film shorthand. And spent 8 or 9 years doing that in my 20s, and worked up the greasy ladder and became a director of commercials, which sounds great, but it just was crap. And I went to Brazil, I went to Carnival, stayed on for a bit, realised that those people in Brazil were actually far, far happier than I was. They were saying in Brazil the reason they never had a revolution because of the Carnival. And in contrast, a lot of other parts of Latin America, Brazilians would much rather fuck than fight. And as well as realising that everybody's default position, maybe that was that. But I just got increasingly disenchanted with the film business and where our society was going. Climate change was happening. Going to Brazil, jumped out of it, thought I'd better get an education, went back to college as a mature student for the first time, and then fell into Cool Town in Brixton. And a bunch of artists opening up empty buildings, putting on art exhibitions. I got involved, and 2 days later we had a Green Party office there. And so, as well as the really powerful arts movement going on in Brixton and most other areas with high squatted communities in urban Britain, we married up art with politics. And through having a political space where people could get together, and then going back to the early 90s, it was the criminal justice bill coming along, Howard trying to criminalise whole slices of community through criminalising trespass. So suddenly squatters, road protesters, football fans, loads of disparate groups of people were forced into the same reaction. And through having the space, through having this Green Party office in Cool Town, we looked to form up Freedom Network, which was a network of groups campaigning against the criminal justice bill around the country, and very soon we had 30, 40 groups in this really powerful network, and we were pulling out demonstrations, the first one at 20,000 going up to 30, 40, 50,000, and it was a huge campaign that really did bring the movement together. And certainly, Green Gathering was a key place for green activists to meet. And in the early 90s, many of us got involved with EcoTrip, primarily to have a place where activists not only could meet, but run the place, and put the funds that we made back into our campaigns. And rather like Cool Town, every 5 weeks we would have a new art exhibition, but every month we would also have a party for a campaign group to come in and organise. We would open up both galleries, the car park, we'd squeeze in 700 or 800 people. We used to have about 120 people working at these events, nobody getting paid other than the event coordinator would get 25 quid for her or his efforts. Everybody was doing their shifts, rather like we're doing here. We've got a crew of about 21, 22 people, all doing 4 or 5 hours a day, and they get food, reduced drink, all that sort of thing. So Cool Town for me was a really powerful example of, if you bite off more than you can chew, if you just empty the canvas, people will come and create on it. If you make a vacuum, if you bite off more than you can chew, if you do it with the right will, and remembering that people's default position is naturally good, then that vacuum gets filled. And I think that's what the Big Green Gathering has been about since it started. It's been, let's make an instant town, let's see what happens. And lots of people come in to fill it.